Hey guys, how's it going? I've heard many complaints about having to memorize ions, but you know what? I don't care. You guys got to learn them. So I'm going to go over a couple tricks of the trade and how do you guys can minimize what you actually have to memorize and know a couple tricks. Work smarter, not harder. So first trick that I'm going to talk about is the cation trick. Groups 1, 2, and 3. They are all grouped together by charge, so we can memorize those in the periodic table. So same with a little trick with group 4 as well. So let's take a look at our periodic table up here. We got group 1 right here. These guys are all +1 charges. Lithium, +1. Sodium, +1. Potassium, +1. Group 1, +1. Hydrogen, +1. Cesium, +1. Francium, +1. Guess what? Group 2, same thing. Group 2, +2. This is the +2 group. Magnesium, +2. Calcium, +2. Barium, +2. You don't have to remember those. 3A, these guys are the +3 charge. Aluminum, +3. Gallium, +3. Indium, +3. Pretty easy. If you can read and remember the A numbers in the periodic table, group 3A, 2A, 1A. Easy to remember. You don't have to memorize those. Know the periodic table. Use the tricks. One of the ones you do have to remember, group 4A, we're not going to do too much with the non-metals and metalloids, but tin and lead. They're both +2 and +4. So they're both on top of each other, both in group 4, but they also have a group 2, +2 charge as well. A couple of the ones that you guys are going to have to remember. For instance, we got a lot of the transition metals here are ones that you guys are going to have to memorize. And so you guys can memorize that. They're in the, but a lot of them have similarities as well. So like chromium has a +2 and a +3. Chromium 2 +2, chromium 3 +3. Manganese, same thing. Iron +2 +3. Cobalt +2 +3. Nickel +2. Copper +1 or +2. That's one of the fun ones you're going to have to remember. Zinc, just a +2. Silver, just a +1. Mercury is a funny one too. Mercury has a +1 and a +2. And this is one of the trickier ones. Mercury 1, Hg2 +2 is Mercury 1. Mercury 2 is just Hg2+. Is Mercury 2. So the one exception is Mercury 1, and that's one of the ones you're going to have to memorize as well. So there's a bunch more ions, but let's not get into that right now. Let's talk about some of the other ones. Noble gases, don't even have to worry about those. They don't form ions. They're stable already. They don't bond. The halogens, group 7, all these have a -1 charge. The chalcogens, the oxygen group, they have a -2 charge. Nitrogen group has a -3 charge. These are -1, -1, -1, -1, -1, -1, -2, -2, -2, -2, -3, -3. We're not going to get into some of the intricacies of the lower, higher energy level ones, group 4 and 5. You're probably not going to see that too much. So carbide even has a -4. So you might see that. Probably not. Let's go on to some of the other tricks that can help us with the anions. So you guys should memorize some of your transition ones. Lead and tin, both on top of each other in the periodic table, +2 and +4. All right, here we go. These are the ones that you guys have to absolutely memorize. And we can learn a couple tricks that'll help us get through those. Acetate, CH3COO -1. Carbonate, CO3 -2. Chlorate, ClO3 -1. Chromate, CrO4 -2. Dichromate with 2 chromiums, Cr2O7 -2. Nitrate, NO3 -1. Oxalate, C2O4 -2. Permanganate, MnO4 -1. Sulfate, SO4 -2. And cyanate, OCN minus 1. So a couple of ones you guys are going to see all the time. Sulfate, nitrate, acetate, carbonate, chlorate, chromate as well. We're going to see a little bit of chromate and dichromate in our course. And probably good to know about, if you're studying chemistry, oxalate's important, permanganate's important, and cyanate's important. And there's a lot of other ones too. It's not limited to this, but these are the good ones to memorize. They'll help you get there. And the rules. If you know these rules, you'll be able to figure out everything else. So the first rule is hydrogen rule. You add a +1 to the charge, as well as a hydrogen. So let's talk about hydroxide. We know oxide, -2. Go back to the periodic table. Oxygen, -2. Right here. Don't even have to know oxide. Hydroxide, OH -1. Add that hydrogen, it always adds a +1 to the charge. Monohydrogen phosphate, or biphosphate, is PO4 with an H with a -2 charge. Adds the hydrogen, decreases this charge by, increases the charge by 1. Go from +3 to +1. Let's go to the next one. We've got 5 rules here. Ite, the Ite rule. So Ite, you have your oxy ions, which end in ATE. The Ite simply states has 1 less oxygen than the 8. So SO4, you have 4 oxygens. Sulfite, that's sulfate. SO3, -2 is sulfite. Same charge, 1 less oxygen. What's nitrite? Well, nitrate is NO3 negative, 1 less oxygen. 3 minus 2 is 1. Or 3 minus 1 is 2. You have NO2, -1. Same charge. Okay, hypo. Hypo, you might know that prefix from biology, like a hypotonic solution. Hypo means 1 less O than Ite. So like chlorite, ITE, that's an Ite. Hypochlorite, a hypoite, you have 1 less O, ClO -1. You have 2 oxygens, 1 less is 1. You have ClO minus. Moving forward. The per rule, hyper, a hypertonic or a hyper person. We talked about a hypertonic, more concentrated. A hyper person is more active, hyperactive. Per means 1 more oxygen. So you got chlorate, ClO3 -1, 1 more oxygen, ClO4 -1. Oxide, same charge, by the way. Oxide, O -2. From the periodic table, you know that already. Peroxide, O -2, 1 more oxygen, O2 -2. Last rule, the thiol rule. You have an S replacing 1 of the oxygens. So, sulfate, SO4 -2, thiosulfate, S2O3 -2. You have 1 less O and 1 more S. So you have another S. Cyanate is OCN -1, one of the ones you have to memorize. Got to memorize that one. Then you know thiocyanate is SCN minus. Same charge, but S replaces the O. And that's it. So, hopefully this helps you guys, and you guys can know your ions.